Welcome to I Heart Geek. And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. Y'all quiet. Wow.
It's because we're on video. Wait a minute. Wait.
No, it works now.
Wait a minute.
Hi.
Wait a minute. I'm looking around here at my 4 squares. I see, well, me,
Okay.
the most important one, me. And then I see Dub, unfortunately.
Thanks.
I
I can delete you.
Hey, I see Kaj. There's Kaj. And then there's this guy here, this guy. Very
guy.
Very
Maybe.
familiar, but where have I seen you before, man?
Well, I was once cast in a remake of Family Ties.
Nice.
I was the drug dealer.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was the Dark Family Ties
Yeah.
is what it was. Yeah, it's a really bad show.
You hooked up Alex P. Keaton on those meths, right? Is that,
Yeah.
what you did?
Yeah,
Nice.
I've actually I've gone through all the '80s TV shows and have just been kind of the chameleon drug dealer. Like I gave Jesse Spanos the caffeine pills.
The caffeine pills.
Nice.
You know, I gave the Wonder Years. I gave all of them the pixie sticks that they were all, just snorting and everything. So, got really dark there for a little while.
All right. So I successfully hijacked I Heart Geek from Dub, and I'm going to give it back to him. There you go, Dub.
Okay. I'm Dub, and I'm your producer, and I usually write these things, but I didn't today because Mr. Winchester wrote this episode. And now you guys are going to be looking at my screen. So to my bottom right, we have Mr. PB&Jason. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm a show hijacker. I was just testing my show hijacking skills, and it seems that they are up to snuff. So I'm doing all right. And I'm not going to have any audio issues this show. So I think
please God.
fixed all that wonderful stuff. I didn't even listen to that last show. I didn't want to go back and go through the mayhem.
Through the pain.
That last show. Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, it's 2 shows ago for everyone that's been
2 shows
following
ago,
everything.
right.
Okay, and to my bottom left, we have Mr. Kaj. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing quite fine. You know what? I'm actually feeling good today.
We haven't heard that in a while.
Feeling good.
Feeling good.
Yeah.
So
Feeling good.
now, as I say, since you're not on a whole lot anymore, what's new and how are you doing?
Doing okay. Like I said, me and Chris were talking. Like I kind of feel blessed with my situation here that there really hasn't been too much panic in the close household. Katie says hi. She's
Hi,
she's in the
Katie.
middle of
Teaching?
yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say fixing her hair.
Oh.
Teaching, fixing her hair.
Yeah,
Same difference.
At the same time.
Wait, you guys are married. She shouldn't have to wash her hair anymore. That excuse.
That's
So.
that's whatever she wants to do. That's what she. You should know better than anybody. Yes, dear. Right. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, but I have to admit, like these just last couple of months, I've gotten like really creative. I just started doing some more writing and stuff, and then coming back here on the show. Yeah, it's been good.
Awesome.
So, yeah, love it.
Okay, and to our top left, we have Mr. Winchester. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Chris.
So
good to
what's
see you,
new?
man.
Great.
It's good to see you guys all too. Everything's good. Still working during the lockdown. Doing stuff around this nice new house of ours.
Yeah.
Outside, it's a very, very social street that we live on. Everybody seems to be kind of into the same thing, which seems to be boozing about now.
That works.
So
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
yeah. So, but yeah, everything's gone really well around here. So
So you live
No, I
on
got-
8888 day drinking drive is what you're telling me.
I morning drinking
There you
through
go.
evening drinking. So
Nice.
whatever we can come up with the word for that one. But yeah, everything's been really good. Started I've really been just kind of watching as much stuff as I could. Some things I need to catch up on. And this whole episode, I kind of just brought out of watching all 6 seasons of Community.
Oh, cool.
So had an idea for this kind of show. So that's what we got.
Nice.
Very nice.
Nice. I feel like this.
But I would like to throw out there though that the four of us all together, it's been the first time since 2018 probably, right?
Yeah.
Not 2018.
Year and a half,
not
yeah.
that bad, but
Yeah.
This is I Heart Geek 2.0. Like
this has been a while.
I take that back because I got that promotion in April of last year.
Yeah.
So it would have been sometime before then. So yeah, so the beginning of 2019.
Wow.
So
that's weird. Well, I just say, I miss you guys. This is I said this is the second cast, I think the second complete cast.
I Heart Geek 2.0.
Yeah.
Yep.
I miss you guys. I really do. And I especially miss not being at the table right now, but this is the next best thing. We do what we got to do. But yeah, I definitely, I'm glad to have you all back on the air with me. Makes me feel like a warm blanket and comforted.
Yeah. Hey, can I take one moment because I wasn't on the magician show that you guys just did. So I want to take one quick moment to say to Blythe that I really appreciate you for what you brought to the show. And I definitely look forward to your return. But more than that, I look forward to meeting your son when he joins the world. And you're going to be a great dad because you're already a great guy. So thank you for what you've done, bringing us to YouTube. I mean, that's you. Maybe I shouldn't thank you. I'm not sure about that yet. But no, I am very glad for what you've done for the show. I think you're an outstanding dude and look forward to watching your journey through fatherhood for sure.
Nice. Yeah. He'll just so everyone's aware, he'll be back in about a month, give or take. We want to give him as much time as we can with.
Oh, is that all? Did I waste all that sentiment for just a month?
Well, if he comes back in a month, he's going to be a new dad. So we also know how that can kind of be busy, but he likes being busy with the show. So.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get on to our episode itself. We are talking about BFFs through pop culture. What gave you the idea for this one, Mr. Winchester? I mean, you said Community, but we talked about this forever ago when we were talking with Scrubs and with all sorts of stuff, and with Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So is that?
Yeah. So that's kind of Also, we did Psych. These are obviously going to reveal a couple of my top five. But yeah, when I was watching Community, I just got that kind of warm and fuzzy type deal whenever you watch Troy and Abed, the way that they became such close friends already. Yeah. So, it just started making me think about, the way that they script the people to become best friends and what happens between them. And then you have stories like Zach Braff and Donald Faison, who are best friends in real life too.
Yeah.
And Take That, or Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox, I believe, are super best friends outside of everything too. So just the writing that you would have there, the writing dichotomy through the friends like that, I think is just, it's fascinating to me. And then you bring up Sunny, and to me that's more that anti-best friend. They are best friends, but they're best friends who will stab each other in the back no matter what, and at a drop of a dime.
Which is what makes for entertaining TV as well.
Yes.
It's a healthy codependency there on.
Yes.
There's nothing healthy about anything. Well,
actually, Chris and Dub, in the time that you guys have done Sunny shows, and Chris, of course, talking about how much you guys love that show. I've watched a lot of that show. I haven't seen it all yet, but I've watched a lot of it, and I concur with you guys how brilliantly written that show is. It's absolutely stunningly well written.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of love for the show by the writers.
Yeah, it's hysterical. It's hysterical. I mean, when the greatest stories shows are when you have full investment of the characters. Yes. And they just fully invest in those characters on that show. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Nice. Mr. Winchester, who we brought to us by-ish sponsor?
So this episode is now brought to you by Claire's in your local mall, because where else are you going to get those little broken in half BFF hearts? Probably Etsy.
Etsy. Everything.
Here I was hoping that with the new sponsor writer, the quality of the sponsor
those never
jokes was going to get better. Nah, not
that's part of the charm.
Come on,
if we came up with
Forever
a good
21 here.
So Well, actually, first point I want to hit, and this actually isn't in the notes, but this kind of hit me. What do you think about, like, let's take the Saved by the Bell example. When it was originally written, it was supposed to be Zach and Screech were best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then it eventually turned into Zach and Slater were best friends. How does that change the dichotomy of everything?
Well, to me, the whole thing, it was still Zach and Screech were best friends because it was kind of, you had to have that nerd, jock or popular guy, pardon me, not jock. But then Zach and Slater were extremely competitive between each other, but then also built a friendship on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you could still see all the competitive, between them, and then the jealousy between them for everybody who's trying to get Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
The part of the holy triangle of Kelly's on TV. Might I add. So the others being Christina Applegate and then Jenny Garth from 90210. Not that I ever watched that.
You still do. It's okay.
Yesterday. Pardon me, but yeah.
2 hours ago.
Check your TiVo.
But I think with the changing, it does change your show completely. Honestly, the first couple of seasons of Saved by the Bell weren't good. I think that best friend dynamic was so important because when Slate and when they were just competitive, it wasn't really good. But when they became friends, that's I think when the show really hit its stride.
Right.
Because the best friend dynamic is probably more important than the romantic dynamic on any show.
Yeah, probably. I would agree. Another show, if I may, that comes to mind, and I just thought about this. Wendell, you'll relate to this one. MASH.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hawkeye and Trapper in the first couple of seasons that they were together versus Hawkeye and BJ in the remaining 8 seasons that they did together. The show evolved anyway, but I think that Hawkeye and BJ made for a richer kind of dynamic because as the show evolved into more mature territory, that friendship was perfect because I don't know if they would have been able to pull that off with Trapper because of the way Trapper was versus the way Honeycutt was.
They're the same person.
Well, on top of that,
no, they were way different. I thought actually.
Well, you got to think of this way that it's the effect of the friendship on the show probably correlates to how they are backstage as well too, because I know the actor who played Trapper was always kind of the defendant for the rest of the actors and stuff like that. So I think that it kind of maybe just bled over into the show as well too, of they really didn't have that. They were bunkmates, but they really weren't friends. But then when BJ came on, I think that BJ and Alan Alda were actually good friends off screen. Yeah. And then it just made for better chemistry on screen as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you misunderstood what I was saying. I know BJ and Honeycutt weren't the same. They were they were very different characters. I'm talking Alan Alda and Trapper were basically the same character.
Oh yeah, okay.
Maybe, yeah. I can see that,
yeah. And that's how important that best friend dynamic is because you can't give somebody if you don't have that kind of sandpaper rub on each other and still have that love there, it's not believable as a friend.
Right.
I mean, there's 2 examples that we'll talk about later on, more of a silly, almost a silly sameness, but they always were really good about making them both very different was like on Psych and Scrubs, characters that are incredibly similar, but they're just enough different. And I don't think that Trapper and Alan Alda had enough different because they basically wrote the same character.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
No, I get it. Yeah. It makes more sense that way. I misunderstood you.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have any other examples? And I can't think of any at the top of my head of people that have changed. They've changed best friends in the course of the show.
Just throwing. Well, I can't think and that's where one of the questions was that I had thought about for kind of coming to that point in a roundabout way, where is it best friends between 2 people who meet, Troy Abed, or is it best friends between 2 brothers, say Supernatural with those 2? And then does that shift into the 2 brothers have best friends of their own? How typically happens in life is, we may have all the same friends, but this is my best friend, this is my brother's best friend.
So what you're saying is what I think you're kind of asking here is which do you prefer as far as did they come in as best friends, brothers types, or did they do on the
how they originate? essentially.
Supernatural is actually a good, interesting comparison because not only do you have the Winchesters and that dynamic, but then you get Dean and Castiel,
right?
Which actually is a more of a best friend dynamic. So you get to compare the two all the time and see which one you think is more effective. And at times, I think they both stand out as being very effective.
And that's an excellent point too, because then you get to see like a brotherly friendship where they they basically do anything. They go through thick and thin together. But then you have Castiel and Dean that they're in the same dynamic, but you get to see their friendship actually blossom throughout the show as well too.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I find it easier if a show's been on for 3 seasons. I honestly like the brother relationship better, that they've been around forever. The first couple of seasons, it's torture for me because you don't have this history. Like you have the Troy and Abed, you are there for every bit of their history. They don't have inside jokes that you aren't in on.
Mm-hmm.
And a writer can't write brothers without giving inside jokes, because that has to be part of the dynamic. So I say the longer it goes, the more I like the brother. But in the beginning, just to jump on, I do not like that. I like they meet, they go. Well, which is kind of going back to the Saved by the Bell thing, because you had Zach and Screech, who were supposedly best friends since kindergarten. And then you got to see that relationship with Zach and Slater because you saw him come in and you saw you saw that relationship change. Again, to me, it's just easier to go on that journey if you're going on it with them rather than jumping
from the beginning instead of having a journey already kind of determined by familial relationships. I see. That's interesting.
I think you can actually relate with that a little bit better because you can sit there and say, that's why I would become their best friend. It's because of those kind of things, because, the little handshake that Troy and Abed do, or all the movie love and everything else that they kind of do. And you go, yeah, I can relate to that. And that would also be what my best friend and I do, type thing. So,
Do you feel do you feel like you add in because you get to see their relationship blossoming that you actually become their best friend as well? You become part of it's like a trio?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Absolutely. So same thing with like Sean and Gus with Psych, their love of like all 80s wrestling.
Yeah. All 80s everything.
Yeah, 80s, early 90s like type stuff. I mean, just all their fandom like that. Like you sit there and go, oh yeah, okay, these are my two best friends. So yeah, it's kind of getting lost in those kind of characters like that. I think it's pretty good.
Even going back to quote unquote real life, people on this show, if we don't have something in common that's like really binding, they don't last on the show. It's not a bad thing. That's just kind of the way it is. But we have to have that ultra common thing. We all have something that we all relate to, and we all relate to everybody in different ways on the show, which is really cool. But you got to have that connection, and that's part of the problem with the familial, because they don't have to have that. It's just they came from the same womb, or something along those lines, or they were just always together. With real life and with like this kind of stuff, it's very much just that common threads. And that's actually a great point with the Sight guys. They have a common thread, but they're all very different.
The best thing about this show for me, I mean, I knew Dub previous to the show, but I didn't know any of you other guys, and I didn't know like Sean and Carl and Courtney and people like that. And yeah, the best thing about this show is meeting you guys and the personal relationships that I formed with you guys over the few years that we've done this are some of the, most fresh and best friendships that I have. And I really appreciate them. I really am glad for those.
Okay, I got to go to the bathroom and wipe my tears.
Yeah, do that. Wipe your tears.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Who's cutting onions? No, this wasn't meant to say this is like a love fest, but that is an important part of best friends, and that's why I wanted this group here, because we've all probably been together longer than anybody on the show. Just that we definitely have that best friend relationship, which goes to this question. I mean, we all have best friends outside, but can you have more than one best friend, and does it work on a pop culture level? Winchester has something on that.
Oh, well, no, because I wrote that down. I have a lot of best friends. I have still at least 5 that are been my friends for over 25, almost 30 years, most of them. And I still keep in regular contact with them and see them and everything like that. We're still very much part of each other's lives. And, my wedding, I mean, I had 10 best men or groomsmen. One of them was because it was a friend of the wife's. Same thing with on her side, one of my best
We're not
friends,
naming those
friend.
names. They might hear it.
No. So, but that's what I'm saying. I definitely believe that you can have those multiple best friends, and then that obviously creates the group dichotomy, because you're all best friends and you all kind of have something similar in common. Obviously the only downfall of that is when one is mad at the other, and then you got to play, parent
be in the middle.
Them. Yeah, because human emotion type fun stuff. So, but yeah, I believe you can have it, and I like that. I prefer that to have so many. I mean, there's so many different people to, this person I'm going to go golf with, this person I'm going to go see a movie with, this person I'm going to go sit at a bar for, till we get arrested. I mean, take a cab home. So, yeah.
But let me ask this: when you're using this in a pop culture reference, does that feel like script-wise and everything else, it cheapens the friendship when you have more than one? Because they don't write that usually very well. It's usually one person always gets kicked to the curb. Do you think there's a way to do that correctly so that, yes, they're best friends in different levels, or do you think it can be done, or can we get any good examples? Unless you're taking the whole group dynamic like a Sunny or a Friends, but even there they have the friends that are closer than the other.
Right.
So yeah.
I feel like with that, it's like it's if you're a best friend outside of the main group, dichotomy group that's on the show, then it's just a reoccurring character. But yeah, they're on the outside of the inner circle, like looking in. But yeah, it does make for a weird dichotomy that usually some of them, whichever that outside force is, they're usually kind of like, okay, you need to go away because I need to focus on these. These are my BFFs, not just my best friends.
So I agree with that, but I think the one thing that happens, or that it seems like they try to progress with the characters in TV shows, especially TV shows. Movies a little bit different to kind of get that in there, but say in the sense for Ron, Harry, and Hermione, there's going to be a love interest there. So the love interest forms out of the initial friendship. So I think that's they always try to progress it a little bit more to where, like you said, one of them's going to get kicked to the curb, or to me, you have the big group thing of friends, of the actual TV show Friends, but then you also put the romance into it. They're all friends and they do absolutely every single thing together, but yet there's going to be the romantic part that was put into that. So
I was thinking about, like, I can only apply this to myself. Like, I have some very good friends that I've been friends with for 30 plus years. They've probably fallen into that best friend category at times. But it's kind of strange because I could take someone like K-Brew, who you guys all know, and I could say that K-Brew is one of my best friends, and I'm certainly one of his best friends. But his best friend is a guy named Lee, who I also know and am friends with. So the whole best friend thing is kind of weird, because I honestly think everybody probably does have, either you probably have a best friend or you don't, and you have a group of friends that you would call your best friends. I currently don't think I have a best friend. I have had them before, and I'm still in contact with people that maybe have been in that role at one time. I mean, I could look at Kaj and say, maybe you and Sean are best friends, or Carl. See, I don't know exactly. I know how close you guys are, but the best friend thing. I mean, you might have a best friend, someone that you could definitely identify as that person, and then a group of people that you could call your best friends. And I think as that relates to shows, I think that's why a show like Friends was so successful, because you could look at Friends and be like, okay, there's the brother and sister and that relationship. There's the two definitive best friends in Joey and Chandler, but then again, they were all best friends in kind of that, it's not really lesser, but different kind of way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why that as it applies to Dub's initial question, that's why you can successfully write the multiple best friends dichotomy, because in truth they aren't really multiple best friends. There's still levels within the friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
it's kind of like real life.
So question here with 3 good writers in this room and 1 crappy one, that's me.
Self-deprecation.
How would you take the friends example away, how would you as a writer create a multiple best friend, or would you be more comfortable making the single as characters? Let's start with Kaj on this one. Just because he gave me that look.
Yeah. Gosh, as a writer, I think the one thing that we need to add on to as well is that it's time. Like friendships develop over time, and the true best friends will be there through thick and thin, no matter if one of them's just being a butthole, and the other friends like, you know what, you go do your thing. When you and if you get to come back, then we'll be friends again, and just through twists and turns of their friendship and everything, that's what solidifies them as being best friends. If I was a writer, I would almost put them in just like a situation where all of them have to deal with things, and then just see how they play, and then write which people are friends and which people will just kind of go off the show, and then that's how it starts with a singular friendship and then goes into a group dynamic.
So what you're saying, just to simplify that, is basically just an evolution. That's you have to evolve. Nothing can start out. Jason, what do you got?
Oh, if I were going to write about friendships, I like to actually start them from ground zero, like the friendship like the beginning of the friendship.
Like
like what?
But how do you write
the womb?
No.
How do you write a group of, or can you?
A group of okay, if I've already established the friendship and formed the relationships, and the relationships have evolved to a certain point, then I would probably, within the group of friends that were going to be friends, create the characters that you would think of, like the clown, the smart one, the dumb one, the popular one, or the socially awkward one, or whatever. And I would create within that group personalities that you could then latch on to them at times in different ways, and maybe relate to this one or relate to how this one reacts with this one. And then within that dynamic of individuals, you could then create a group dynamic. I think that's probably how I would approach that.
Well, that's interesting. I read a study not too long ago where this journalist, they took like a bunch of friends that were how is it, like, let's say they took 10 people that were popular and put them in the same group, and within a month, even all those popular people, one of them became the popular one became the joker, one became the follower, so I don't remember exactly what they were. And they did that with the followers of the group, did the same thing, and that happens every time. Naturally, I think you just have to find what those pieces are that fit together, because naturally it's what we do.
Well, would you guys probably agree that it would be more interesting to read about 5 different people that were extremely different and yet were friends, versus 5 people who were incredibly similar?
Depends on the amount of conflict.
It depends on how much how far different are they? Because if they're so far different that they're like, I don't like you because you don't like anything that I like, it has to go against the person too.
Let me clarify, like 5 people that you could believe that they would be friends, but those 5 individuals were notably different from each other, but believably friends, versus 5 people who were friends and very, very similar to each other, I guess is what I'm saying.
So opposites attract, in other words. Okay. It's just like a relationship.
Opposites or differences, like differences attract, because they're interesting.
As far as like the writing thing, 2 movies to reference on that for 2 different kind of eras, I guess, or in their lifetime. Dazed and Confused. all the friendships that they have, going through high school and everybody, and all
the one
the
person's
big,
the glue when everyone else is in this group.
Yeah, exactly. And then for older, the Hangover.
Nice.
With they're all professionals in their jobs and everything, but yet they're going to meet up for their hijinks and fun, but they're going to stay together, the whole time, type thing, back each other up. So.
Actually, and I can give another example of that, and I'm surprised we didn't discuss it before, but this really is I think the perfect group of best friends where everybody is on the same ground, and that would be Stand By Me.
Yes.
Every one of those characters was best friends with every other character.
Yeah.
At least for that weekend.
Yeah, and but younger too. That's one of the things too. They're also young, so there's going to be growing apart in different things, especially when they find girls.
Yeah, and
but also that's a good example too, because they were also pretty different. I mean,
they were very different.
Yeah, they were individually very different people, yet all best friends.
Right, but they don't. In order to become best friends, don't you think? Well, they have to have a common. They have to share some form of common moment or memory, because like even with Stand By Me, because it's hey, there's a dead body. You want to go see it? And then they all kind of come together to go see it, and then that's when the friendship becomes even bigger. I was just thinking The Sandlot as well.
Oh,
all of them are very, very. But they all have the commonality of playing baseball together.
Baseball.
Team. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great one, Sandlot. I like that one.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, because they definitely, every single one of them was different, from everything that they do. But then you put them on that field, and all of a sudden, they're one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice.
So, do you think the BFFs on pop culture, in order to be relatable, do they need to be like we are in real life, or do they need to have that turned up to 10? If that makes sense. Like, for instance,
I think that would depend on the show, because Sunny is a great example. I mean,
some people are like that though.
Yeah, but that's like, okay, characters or parodies, okay, which we've talked about before. Like, some of the best parodies are when you take real life characteristics and really amplify them to a ridiculous level. Those make some of the best parodies. So, is Sunny realistic? No,
I hope not.
No, it isn't. I mean, it's dialed up to parody level.
That's right, Cricket.
And that's what makes it hysterical.
Yeah.
But the reason it's so hysterical is because it draws from relatable, real things and then takes them over to the absurd parody level. That's some of the best comedy comes out of that idea.
So, but what's great with Sunny, and that brought up my question about the whole anti-best friend type deal, is that they're still completely, totally within their group. Nothing ever goes outside of the group. They don't. Yeah. They ruin
self-sufficient.
Every single person that comes into contact with them. They ruin their life outside of the five of them, right? Because on the inside, they're ruining each other's life anyways. So they don't really. I mean, just by proxy, everybody else gets their life ruined that just comes into contact with them. But the whole fact that they're going to stay together, at the end of when Dee had the baby, with everything that was going on with that, and then afterwards it was like, Dee's back. We're going to go to the bar. We're going to go hang out. It's back to the whole five of them where they're together.
Well, they have the element. They have the element of unhealthy codependence too, which is
that extremely, very badly.
That's an important thing, actually. When we go back and look at best friends, you have to have that reason why you are together through thick and thin. They're codependent on each other because no one else will relate with them. The guys on Scrubs, they work so well together because no one else can relate on that level, and that's an important thing that I think we forget. Real life as well. You we're friends with the people we're friends with because most people won't relate in the same way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would even say because I just finished Parks and Rec, which amazing show. That I don't know if I would want any of my friends to be that. Like for my regular friends, I think it needs to be it'll be dialed down. It's a little bit more mundane.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still my best friends, and I love talking to them and connecting with them. But if I had like a friend, like say Chris Traeger, I would kill him within probably a couple of weeks because he's just so much into his body and fitness, and he's just so this sunshine of positivity that I'm like, I can only handle you in doses.
But remember, that's another perfect example of something that's kind of real, because we all know, we know body nuts, we know body gym minded people, but then take the parody and dial it up to parody level. And so you can laugh. That's why you laugh at it. You're like, God, I would kill that guy in real life. That's so funny. You know?
While you're sitting next to somebody that's the exact same way.
Show. Yeah. But then you get somebody like Leslie Knope and Ann Perkins that, Leslie, like, she has that best friend thing, like, just dialed in to the point where it's almost like a smothering mother of, but then also when you're feeling down, it's a smother. Yeah. She's, but when the chips are down, when like Anne is kind of feeling sad and lonely, she is like the best person to have, because she's the one that can lift her out of that funk that she's in and make her feel better about herself too. Yeah.
Well, nice. And with that, kind of leads to the example that this is something that, although it's entertaining to watch, they're completely unrealistic on most of these best friends, because of the fact that if you were to have a relationship like any of these people have, you would burn out on each other. I don't care how close you are. There's no way you can handle that amount of closeness to another human being.
Well, remember though that TV shows or movies or whatever won't ever show the downtime.
Yeah,
it's boring. No one wants to watch that.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you wanted to, like, I don't know, role play, whatever, it's like the downtime obviously does exist. It's just, it's not on the show, right? Because no one wants to watch that.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the reality fantasy problem when, we are all raised seeing this, and it's an unrealistic expectation for your relationships, because every relationship is like that. It's an unfair thing that you were brought up with.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, this brings up the whole question of escapism. Too. It's like, I mean, there probably are people who enjoy watching, like, I mean, documentaries. Documentaries are real life, generally. Mm-hmm. So you like watching some real life history or real life, whatever. You can find that in documentaries, and there are people that gravitate to those. I think documentaries are okay. I've seen some that have been very interesting, but I don't gravitate to documentaries the way that I gravitate to. Sorry, my computer just did a stupid thing. The way that I gravitate to escapism. Mm-hmm. I gravitate to comic absurdity or fantasy or not really drama, but action comedy or whatever. The things that I gravitate to for interest in reading and watching or playing in video games are not based in reality. Like, I'm not big on war games, Call of Duty, or what's the big car game, the crime car? Yeah, Grand Theft Auto. Those kind of games don't appeal to me, like Zeldas or Skyrims or things like that, where I'll take dragons and fantasy in my games before I'll take car theft and first person shooting.
So complete and total escapism.
Yes, for me. Yeah, that's what I gravitate toward.
There's nothing wrong with either. I just kind of wanted to bring up.
No, nothing wrong, of course.
But when you're raised up as that is the example, it's to say it doesn't vary much as far as the best. I mean, yes, we've discussed Sunny and we've discussed Friends, but either of those are really not realistic. I mean, I think the last realistic friendship that I ever saw, I think anyway, was probably I Love Lucy. Because I mean, I think that was very realistic how they had their friendship. And when I'm going back that far, it's yeah, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm talking into nothing, but that's what we do on this show sometimes.
So then what about like the dumpster fires that you watch for reality television where they get the seven strangers? Trust me, I don't watch. I just see a lot of stuff in the background. But what about the dumpster fires that, okay, 7 people come in and then all of a sudden, they're going to start forming a friendship, a couple of people anyways. But then it just turns into an absolute dumpster fire.
Well, see, those are, the thing is, I don't believe those are genuine. Those are cooked.
No, absolutely.
Sometimes, but not.
I don't know. I mean,
in general, I think the rule is it's fake. I think there's been a few that have probably been real.
See, the thing about reality shows for me, and I like am wary of them because I mock and bag on them constantly, but then one will come along and it'll suck me in and I can't stand it because it's like I'm sucked in and I'm watching. I remember like the NXS one. I don't know if you guys ever watched that when NXS was trying to find a singer.
Yeah.
I got so sucked into that show and it was crazy. We were like, yelling at the TV and all that stuff. But then those shows, they call them reality shows, but they're all cooked. I mean,
right, to a certain extent, yeah.
Because again, reality's kind of boring after a while. So they take reality and they dial it up with some clever cooking, and then you get
escapism.
Reality. Another form, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I would say like one of them that I thought, because I totally agree that I've seen some of the behind the scenes stuff that they either the producers try to cook up something to get them, because conflict is what sells the show. Like they want people to kind of fight back and forth. However, one of them that was on Netflix a short time ago, now they've kind of sprawled off, was The Circle. If you haven't seen that one, I thoroughly enjoyed that one because it's like 7 people in an apartment complex, but they don't talk to each other. They're all in their own separate little apartment rooms. And then there's kind of like a Facebook kind of an app that they have in their apartments called The Circle. And then they rate each other while doing different activities. And you can, at the beginning, they're like, oh, this is a game. There's $100,000 at the end. I want to win this thing. But then throughout the show, it sucks you in because then you actually get to see them developing friendships with each other because of what they like or don't like or how they choose and form alliances. It just, I saw it on Netflix. I'm like, this looks stupid. Me and Katie were like, yeah, let's just give it a shot. We have nothing better to do. Next thing you know, we watched like every week when they put out new episodes.
Isn't it amazing isn't it amazing how those suck you in?
Yeah.
It's like you could be at reality show. I'm not going to ever watch it. And then you watch it, you're like, I am invested.
Like, normally, yeah. Katie was even saying, like, if I would have known you were watching this before me and you started this together, I would have made fun of you. Like, seriously. But yeah, it was a great show.
Right.
Well, I want to throw in this as another example of just different reality shows that I was just listening to the podcast, and they talked about this show. And it brought it back to mind. There was a show called Murder in Small Town X. Did you guys see that?
I heard of it, didn't see it.
Okay. Well, basically, it was a quote unquote reality show. They set, I think, 10 contestants, whatever, doesn't matter. In a town that there's a murder that was just done. And it's a fake murder. That going in, and they give you clues, and everybody eventually dies if they don't answer the clues right or whatever. But I thought that was a completely different way of doing the reality thing that I think works so well, because you knew it was fake. But
so it was a clue game.
Yeah, but to me it felt more real because you're getting more genuine responses from the people than other reality show. And you knew the people that were trying to be friends on that were pretty legitimate, because there's no way you could screw somebody else. It would just be trying to do what you're doing. And I think that was a really interesting way of doing it. And I don't know how we're on reality TV.
Well, you're talking about friendship dynamics in reality TV and whether or not they're genuine.
Okay. We need to jump over to our main event.
Now it's time for the main event.
Okay, on this version of the main event, we are doing our top 5 in TVs or movies by BFFs. I think we really did do a pretty good run of the gambit on this. We're all over the board, so this is fun.
Yeah.
So and just
I did a Kaj on my list and put mine together like 30 seconds before we started.
That happens from
John.
time to time. So just so everybody's aware, just so we're aware before we start, the order is going to go me, Winchester, Cause, Jason, just because that makes sense on the screen because we're going counterclockwise. Okay, so and that's for the people at home.
That was just the table, basically.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Wow, we're at the table again. Okay, so my number 5 went for Lucy and Ethel from I Love Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had I believe that they were friends afterwards, that they were friends before. They had that connection that was just so real. They were so different of characters. Ethel seemed a lot older than Lucy, but they really had they tried to keep up, and Ethel has definitely had more wisdom than Lucy, but Lucy was going to do what she was going to do anyway. And that's really what made it such a fun dynamic because I was going to say
Dub had some splaining to do, but he did
I
it pretty
explained
well.
it.
Right
I explained it.
So did they just know each other when they moved in to that complex? Because isn't that because they were like basically neighbors, right?
They were neighbors.
Yeah. See, so that's another one that's cool how it develops.
Yeah.
Is you become very close with your neighbors.
Yeah, because they saw each other all the time, and you knew when they were fighting because they couldn't escape it, which was a really good dynamic with that. Mr. Winchester?
Okay, my number 5 is going to be Seth and Evan from Superbad. Jonah Hill's character and Michael Cera's character.
Yeah.
Because they've been best friends since they were children. Now they're in their senior year of high school. I mean, the friendship is encapsulated completely in just the very first phone call, when they're just talking to each other as they're walking to each other. And don't worry about what the conversation of the phone call was, but I mean, just how they're trying to plan stuff for as it goes on. And of course, how the movie goes on is Evan's trying to tell him that he's not going to be going to college at the same place and they're going to be split up at that time. And then the heartbreak between the two, and it's always just about the two of them. It's, nobody else on the outside. It's just the two of them. And that shows so perfectly at the end of the movie where they're at the mall and Jonah Hill's going down the escalator, Michael Cera, they're just sitting back. I mean, even though they're walking away with two girls that they've been, fawning all over, they're just staring back at each other. That's friendship.
Nice. Mr. Kosh?
I'm going to go back to the previous statement I said of Parks and Rec with Leslie Knope and Ann Perkins. At the beginning of the show, they were basically thrust into a situation where there was a pit by Ann's house, and then Leslie needed to fix it to make it into a park. And then
Star-Lord was there.
Huh? Yeah,
Star-Lord was there. Sorry.
Or I think his name was Frank Quill instead of Peter Quill. Oh. But that progression of seeing him like being a little overweight to like being svelte was hilarious. But that incident that started Parks and Rec just blossomed into this like beautiful friendship where Anne was dating like a guy that Leslie liked, and you got to see those kind of conflicts. But then through thick and thin, at the end, like Anne leaves, and she's like Leslie's very distraught about it. But then even in the end, Anne comes back, and their friendship blossoms. Like I think that's probably the most like solid friendship that I've ever seen on television. Yeah, it was.
Very good explanation.
Nice, nice.
Mr. PB?
Okay, my number 5, the director Martin Brest, most famously known for the Beverly Hills Cop movies, did a movie called Midnight Run.
Yeah.
Starred Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. Robert De Niro played Jack Walsh, who was a bounty hunter, and Charles Grodin played an accountant named Jonathan the Duke Mardukas, who stole money from the mafia and was incarcerated for doing so. And then a bail bond was posted for him accidentally. And so he got out of jail, and Jack Walsh, Robert De Niro's character, was put on a bounty hunt to catch Jonathan Mardukas. And that movie is all about how he catches him, and they have to get from New York back to Los Angeles, and the buddy friendship that forms between the two during the course of the movie, while also running from the mafia and running from other bounty hunters and other things like that. It's a very entertaining friendship. I won't spoil the plot just in case you haven't seen it, because it's actually worth seeing. It's a very, very funny, very good movie. A lot of F-bombs, so don't watch it with the kids. But it's a really good relationship, one of those ground zero starting point and ending point and how it develops. And it's really the chemistry. You wouldn't think there'd be a great chemistry between De Niro and Grodin, but it's actually pretty amazing between those two.
Outstanding.
Robert De Niro can definitely do comedy when he wants to.
No,
he can definitely.
I'll have to watch it, and then I'll redact my statement. Okay, so my number 4, I just changed because of a conversation that Kaj had when we were off air. I actually am now going to go with Aang and Katara from The Last Airbender. I think the male-female best friendship was amazing. They didn't really do a romantic thing per se because they were kids. They did later on, but I think it was a really interesting way of doing that relationship because it's completely different. You don't see the male-female relationship very well at all usually. It's because it always turns into, well, except for like maybe Will and Grace.
I don't know. I mean, this isn't so much an argument as much as an observation. No choice in this is going to be bad, so that's fine. This isn't. But my one thing about that is like, to me, that relationship. I mean, Aang fell in love with Katara from the first second he saw her, and the whole building of that relationship was really around the slow developing over 3 seasons from what they were to what they became. But I don't know. I always saw that as a romantic build and not a friendship build. That's it, but that's me.
But to me, it didn't feel like a romantic until the end. I mean, it felt like a crush more than a romance. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but I think their friendship was much more important than any of that. I think that's really where I was thinking was really interesting with that show.
I got you,
Mr. Winchester. You're number 4, sir.
Number 4 is going to be Mr. Bubba and Forrest.
Oh,
so
it's such a short friendship.
It's a short friendship, but I mean, has there been any more of a simple relationship and friendship that just, it was
what it was.
Bubba said, you could sit next to me, and all of a sudden he starts talking about shrimping, and, just somewhere in there in Forrest's mind, he now loves shrimping.
At least the friendship went long enough for Bubba to explain all of the ways to shrimp.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd say even to add on to that, like, wouldn't you just love to have that quintessential best friend that will basically, like, during a time of strife, like in this case, the Vietnam War, like he just runs and then all of a sudden he stops and is like, oh crap, I forgot Bubba, and then runs back into the fray to save his best friend. Even though that, unfortunate spoiler alert, he does pass away, but
spoiler.
It's not like 40 years old.
even still, some answers like what, and then they get mad at me. Don't write in. That they had that quintessential best friend that'll be like, oh crap, my friend's in trouble. I need to help him. Drop everything and to go help him, either to go rescue him or to go help him out in any way that he can.
Yeah, I left my best friend at the bar. Oh yeah, hold my beer. I left my best friend inside the forest of Vietnam. I'll be right back.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, that's a good one, Chris.
That's great. Kaj?
My number 4, I don't care. I regret nothing about this. Sex and the City. All 4 of them. Think about, okay, so I mean, you got Charlotte.
Sex.
Oh my God, what's it?
And the
There's
city.
Carrie, Charlotte, Miranda, and Samantha. They all, like we were talking about, they're all kind of different. Like one's the prude, one's the strong independent woman, one is the kind of the empath of the writer, and one is the kind of the partier. And even though that they would not be friends per se, just because they have a common link of like trying to find a relationship in a crazy city like New York, they're truly best friends and they help each other out when they need to be. So yeah, I think those 4 women are a great example of what friendship should be, even in a realistic kind of a sense, and not be over the top like a Friends or Sunny in Philadelphia.
Well, no, definitely in a group of friends setting, that's definitely what you would like right there, is like those kind of 4. Absolutely.
Pretty cool.
PB?
Okay, my number 4 would be a friendship of the moment. I don't think the friendship probably lasted too long after the events of the film, but so The Fifth Element is an incredibly underrated movie. It's such a good movie in my opinion.
It is.
And the relationship between Bruce Willis's Corbin Dallas and Ruby Rod is just off the hook. And his name is escaping me. Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that relationship that happened totally in the fray of danger through the course of the events of that film. Their chemistry was just amazing, and so for the course of events that they were very, very closely bonded, led to a great friendship of necessity that again probably didn't last after the events ended, but it was fantastic while it was going on.
I don't know if it was a friendship like necessity. I think survival. I think Ruby Ray was
necessity.
Like, oh my God, the crap just hit the fan. This guy is taking people out. I'm going to get underneath him so that I don't die.
But I feel like they were still going to be friends after that ended. Ruby Rod's going to go over to Corbin's house every at least once a weekend, and he's going to hang out on the couch. He's going to annoy the crap out of him, but he's going to be there.
I think the best thing
out of his cab.
They probably nod at each other across the crowd, but I don't know if there'd be much relationship afterwards. But in the moment, Corbin, my man, Corbin, they're coming. No, in the moment though, it was fantastic.
Nice.
All right, I see what you did there. I like it.
Multi-pass.
Dallas.
My what are we got? Number 3 is one Bill and Ted on their excellent adventure. I don't know if death is their friend as well, but in high school, tell me that wasn't your relationship goal with your best friend. That's the friend that everybody wanted, even if you had them or not. Just that you're together all the time. You basically share the same brain. But this is an example of some very, very similar characters, but it worked.
The relationship has been done in a few examples. Beavis and Butthead were the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're a good classic example of that. The sameness friendship that we had discussed earlier in the show, how two people very similar can be very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and have a band. Wild Stallions.
Wild Stallions.
Be excellent to one another.
Mr. Winchester?
Number 3 is going to be The Dude and Walter. Jeffrey Lebowski and Walter Sobchak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I mean, The Dude is the most laid-back person that there ever has been in the world. And Walter just amps it up, another one with the Vietnam era and everything. I mean, if you guys have seen the movie, out there, but they're there for each other. They're there, Walter's going to back him up on anything. And, the Dude is going to call Walter out on all his BS, and he does it several times. He's like, what does anything have to do with Vietnam? And they just call each other out. It's good. It's a good friendship towards the end. And of course, spoiler alert, movie came out 98. Donnie's in there too, but Donnie passes away, which made the little 3 friendship thing. But always loved that little friendship of those two.
Nice.
Mr. Kaj?
All right, I'm going to I don't think not go to the opposite, but I want to go into the realm of Pixar animation. That I want to say Buzz Lightyear and Woody the Cowboy. This friendship kind of was like,
you're a toy.
It was an animosity because like Woody felt threatened that a new toy was coming in, and that he was very bravado and was kind of a leader, and he kind of felt that his position in the toys was being threatened. Mm-hmm. So at first they were kind of at each other's throats. Kind of, he didn't want him to do well, and Buzz didn't want him to do well, or Buzz didn't really care. He was just kind of in his own world. But then as you progress, even not through the first movie, but through 4 movies, you see that and I don't think we really touched on this much about describing friendships, but to build each other up. That's another good way of friendship. Like if you're each helping each other out to be a better version of yourself, or to to strive for excellence. That's what makes a friendship too, and that's what Buzz and Woody does. Like with Buzz being a little bit more confident, Woody being a little bit more logical, that or down to earth, that they kind of balance each other out.
Nice. There's no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great movies. I remember, Kaj, I'm going to point out, you were right about 4. I'm going to give it to you again. You were totally right about Toy Story 4.
Like,
they better not make any more, though, man. This better be it.
No.
Oh, criminy. Are you going to tell me they're going to make a 5?
Well, fun fact, because I just found this out. Ann Perkins, or Rashida Jones, sorry, that's on Parks and Rec, was a co-writer for Toy Story 4.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
I was like,
fair enough. PB?
All right. My number 3 would be an established friendship that you don't know how it started, but it still was very interesting, was Inigo Montoya and Fezzik from The Princess Bride.
Yes.
Mandy Patinkin and Andre the Giant.
So good in every level.
Yeah, and you don't know how they met. You don't know what brought them together other than they were both mercenaries at the beginning. But yeah, a lot of unspoken things to ponder about that friendship. But it was beautiful chemistry. And one thing about The Princess Bride that I think is worth noting is you talk about like the real life relationships that sometimes casts of certain shows or movies have. The relationship that they had in that movie was at least in everything I've read and seen, absolutely magical. The way that they felt about each other, the way that they felt about the making of that film, especially the way that the cast felt about Andre the Giant, how he was as a person to everybody. It was just, it's a really beautiful piece of art, that movie. And that relationship, Inigo and Fezzik, is really very appealing as a friendship.
And it's now Disney Plus benefit.
Does anybody want a peanut?
I mean it. Okay, so my number 2, I did some changing around, but basically Simon Pegg and Nick Frost had been best friends in every movie that I've seen them in. They have like 6 movies, all very different characters, the exact same dynamic, no matter which movie you watch. I love them. Their chemistry is, these guys are best friends. There's no way they're not. And that I feel like that it's the most realistic relationship that I've seen in movies. And I say their characters change, but their relationship doesn't. And I think that's, Shaun of the Dead and
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz is a great one. End of the World, Space, the show.
Lucas. No, not Lucas. The alien one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Paul.
Yeah.
Just such a fantastic relationship, and I don't want to watch those movies if they're not buddies in it. I respect them both, but if I'm watching them individually, it's a different movie, no matter what.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the draw is of them together is them for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Winchester.
Number 2, and like I had expressed earlier, the reason why I pretty much wrote all this, and that would be Troy and Abed in the morning.
In a bubble.
Their friendship and just how it started in the very beginning, and of course, took a whole turn, because the first time you see Troy come in, Troy was a big jock and, had his way about, how he went in things, but then he meets Abed, and all of a sudden they just have this kind of unlikely friendship because, Troy's popular, Abed's just kind of that little weird kid, just did his own thing, but then Abed brought the best out in Troy.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
And they made each other evolve.
Yes, absolutely they did. And he got Abed out of his skin a little bit. And, it's amazing to see, and those were the best parts, were the end of the shows when they would do their little, either Troy and Abed in the morning, or they do their little, movie type thing. You just tell that these two just know exactly what they want to do together. And everything that they do is just magical.
Or just the dice.
So, yeah. No, absolutely. So, yeah, those two are definitely number 2.
Kaj?
I'm going with Harry Potter. Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Started off in Hogwarts and just bloomed their friendship from there. And you get a multiple thing of dynamics of like, just the romantic interest with like you thought that like Harry was going to get Hermione, but then like over the course of it, then Ron and Hermione start getting a friendship, but then Harry and Hermione are still really good friends. They're basically thick as thieves, and they do have other friends that are around that kind of come in, but you can't break up that trinity of those three, because when those three are together, they're just basically unstoppable. And like, yeah, they help each other out and build each other up as well.
And being that this is a geek podcast, I think everybody should have seen this by now.
Yeah.
I would hope.
Well, it's because you were like buddies. I'm like, well, I mean, there's group buddies too.
No,
like
that works.
Yeah, so
it absolutely works.
Oh no, I agree. And like, again, how they bring out the best in each other. I mean, the very first scene with Hermione with the two of them, I mean, she immediately is, oh, you're trying magic? Let's see.
Yeah.
And just completely,
prove it.
Prove it. But, they completely lightened her up a little bit from where she was, I think. And yeah, it just became a wonderful friendship, so.
Very nice. So yeah, on the in the line of thinking on groups, I had a group written down, but it made me think of another group. So I'm actually going to list both groups. So the first group, from the two sci-fi kings, by the way, the first group would be Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Leia Organa, who formed a relationship not much unlike Corbin Dallas and Ruby Rhod in some ways. I mean, it was based on circumstance and necessity that they all got together. And so there was that fantastic chemistry between those three. But on the other side of the sci-fi coin, James T. Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. McCoy also as another group of three, and the dynamics within that relationship, the friends, the kind of frenemies that McCoy and Spock are, and stuff like that. So again, when you take the two greatest sci-fi franchises of all time and look at the group of three friendships in both, it makes for very interesting writing, obviously, that has endured generations,
Yeah. Nice.
Damn it, Jim, I'm not your BFF.
I'm your doctor.
I'm a doctor, Jim, not your best friend. Right, exactly.
Okay. So
go for your prostate.
Hey,
beam me up. Beam me up.
Finally the line. Okay.
So my number one, I changed from Turk and JD at Scrubs because we've talked about him a million times already. But I wanted to throw in Barney Fife and Andy from the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, man.
Very different relationship, because that was a boss and subordinate that were best friends. I mean, neither of them would have a happy life without the other one. They made each other's life complete.
I disagree. I think Andy's life would be much more happier if Barney wasn't with him.
I don't think so, because he'd be all
much less interesting, though. Much less interesting.
Right? Yeah, it's less boring. But it's my parents, especially my mother, loves the Andy Griffith Show. So every time I go down there, we watch like at least 3 or 4 episodes. And I noticed like the more times that I watch the show, Barney gets Andy into so much trouble or takes things so far out of proportion that, Andy has to pull him back in. And, Andy Griffith's a saint, because if it was anybody else, he'd have fired him, be like, you can't handle this job.
I think they needed each other, though.
Remember what I said earlier about the downtime that you don't see on TV shows?
Right.
There's a lot of downtime in Mayberry.
Oh, my God.
Let me tell you.
So sometimes you go to Floyd's.
Nice.
Okay. Mr. Winchester?
All right, so my number one, but real quick, an honorable mention, and I didn't want to have to put Dub through this because it is his favorite movie, but Maverick and Goose.
Yeah.
Great. It's a great friendship, and it's real, so is all the piloting. So anyways.
Go.
My number one, as I talked about it earlier, is Sean and Gus from Psych.
Nice.
And if you just want to be able to just take one look at, one thing that they do, and you just know these two are best friends, is all they have to say is, great food, happy dance, or something like that. And they have a dance for everything that the two of them just do. And it's just, they're the greatest thing. So, definitely finishing each other's sentences. They know by a look what each other is talking about. they've known each other since they were friends, and how that show was great with it is that they actually established how they were friends when they were kids also.
Yeah.
With flashbacks and everything like that. And then went forward. So they've always been those close friends, and that's definitely the as I said the dub in when I first did this is the friend goals, as the kids say these days, friendship goals.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Now, if you go back in the archives, you can find we did do a episode of Psych. I think that was me and John from California. I think.
And myself.
And you, yes.
Yep.
That was
this guy here, right here, Chris. He was on the show.
Yeah. So go back, check out the archives. That's a actually pretty good episode.
Yeah, I wouldn't know because I don't watch the episodes. Right, so
you don't have to watch. You listen. You only watch the ones on YouTube.
I don't listen to it. Okay. You know me. So me.
By the way, when we're done, does anybody want to play shirtless volleyball? I'm just curious.
No. Nobody wants to play all that.
With the boys.
That's a whole new meaning with that song. Go ahead.
I'll watch volleyball on TV shirtless, but I'm not going to play. No. All right. So Jason actually just gave me a really good friendship that I completely forgot about. My honorable mention will be Batman and Superman.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
It's because it's definitely a friendship that is developed.
Oh no, they're best friends. Absolutely.
At the beginning, more rivals because Batman was like, I don't trust this guy. I don't know what's going on. Like, how can I take him down or whatnot? But over the course of decades now, yes, they are definitely friends. That if one of them's in trouble, the other one is coming in to help them out no matter what, through thick and thin.
One of my great pet peeves in comics is that people think that they're enemies. But it drives me nuts.
There's Zack and Slater.
Yeah, they're
they kind of are,
but they're friendly rivals. Like they respect each other.
They have egos,
and they respect. And you know that Batman would totally take Superman down if he went rogue too. So they take each other out if they need to. And that's maybe another connection of friendship of to make sure that they don't go down the wrong path, and they would make sure that they would stop each other as well too. Right. However, I'm so mad that we didn't think of this before. R2D2, CP3.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
The almost Andy Griffith, Barney Fife type of thing, where one of them is kind of a bumbling buffoon.
Well, they were weren't they Laurel and Hardy inspired?
Yes. Yeah.
Or Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and Costello.
Right.
Yeah, like one's the happy-go-lucky, one's the kind of the more serious, but they play off each other so well, and you cannot see them. They've been separate together, but you cannot see them. One cannot be without the other, period.
Right.
I'm just going to have to go ahead and disagree with you on that one, is because they're robots and they have no feelings.
They're droids.
They're not robots. They're droids.
They're astromech droids.
Oh, hold on. Here, just cover this. I'm just kidding. Seriously, I'm kidding.
I mean, I personally loved it. Episode 9, but you can even see like C-3PO was like, I'm losing my friends. So
I totally agree. I actually
no shirtless volleyball for you, Chris. You're done, man. No shirtless.
So anybody want to go and get reprogrammed?
So speaking of reprogramming, PB, what's your number one, sir?
Is anybody going to be surprised with my number one? No. Sam Gamgee and Frodo Baggins from The Lord of the Rings, the greatest fantasy story of all time. If I ever had friend goals, like the friend that I would want would be Sam. Absolutely.
But unfortunately, it would be Gollum would be your.
Gollum would be my. Yeah, it would end up being Gollum, but the desire would be Sam. It would end up being Gollum, right? No, Sam and Frodo. They didn't actually start as best friends. Quite honestly, they started as associates. Frodo's uncle Bilbo, who owned Bag End. Sam is the gardener for Bag End, so he was someone he knew and associated with, and then the forming of the absolute bond of friendship happened over the journey to Mount Doom. And one of the greatest written characters of all time is Sam. Just if you ever had like a checklist of what a best friend should be, Sam Gamgee is the answer. Absolutely. He is loyal, brave, will watch your back. Everything you want out of a friend is Sam.
All right.
In my opinion.
A fantastic show, guys. That wraps us up because we're overtime as usual. We are on these. So yeah,
we're in overtime.
We're in overtime.
Double overtime.
Double, triple, secret overtime.
Nice.
So take a listen to the music at the end. It tells us where you can get a hold of us on everything. Yeah, we're gonna keep doing these for a while, but I do miss the table.
Me too.
So probably at least another month or two.
Make sure you clean it off before we come back.
So in the same order that we did this, I'm Dub.
I'm Mr. Winchester.
I'm Kaj.
I am PB&Jason.
And we'd never get these right together. So keep on geeking on.
Keep on geeking on.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.